Good morning. Welcome to SimWorld today. Back in the host chair after a week and a half of being physically unable to do it. Shout out to B-Ron for holding down the duties for the last week and a half here. We're running a solo edition in the return show, and we got plenty to get to. We got some SWFL, maybe QB1 drama. We've got some recapping of last night's games, and that's where we're going to start with Tennessee as they roll through the Xavier Musketeers last night, 106-63. Trey Turner, 38 points. 8 boards, goes 7 of 10 from three-point, and the Volunteers, who are number 1 in the country, they suffered that loss to Oklahoma, a surprise Oklahoma team, but this team continues to steamroll just about everybody in their path. Their wins on the season now, 102-61 to Tennessee. This is now the second time they've eclipsed 100. 74-60 over UConn on the road, mind you. 85-67 over Kansas. This is their only home win of the season, although it's nearly a doubling up of an opponent. This is the fear that you have with Tennessee. It's why it's very easy to get overreactionary with a single loss, but it's why we shouldn't be. Because yes, they lose to Oklahoma, who kind of looked like the Oklahoma we expected them to be for the first time all season. But this team is incredibly deep, with Henrik Vekic only playing 26 minutes, still ended up with 14 points. Trey Turner, 38 points, as we said, with 7 made threes, missed just 5 field goals in this entire game. There's some talk about Cooper King-Cross being the number 1 overall pick if it's not Jameson Johnson. I think Trey Turner has a very real case to be the number 1 guy. He is the straw of this drink, but he does it in an effortless way. He's a dynamic three-point shooter, both on and off ball. He showcased that last night. This is not a surprise if you watch him over the last 2 seasons here at SimWorld U, last season in SimWorld U, and then his previous encounters in SimWorld Prep. He is an incredibly dangerous three-point shooter. And while we can look at Henrik Vekic and say this is a 2-man combination, Tennessee comes and goes with Trey Turner. And last night they came full hard. That's pause, but here we go. Trey Turner is a difference maker. And when he is on his game, he is going to be an unstoppable force, and the Volunteers are an unstoppable team. Xavier might not be the best measuring stick to go up against, might not be a team that is a great barometer that we look at the Volunteers and judge their future success on. But so long as Trey Turner is being Trey Turner, this team is going to be very difficult to stop. Their schedule gets kind of maybe similarly challenging, a little bit of challenge, a little bit of not before we get to SEC play. They've got matchups with Memphis. Actually have 2 matchups with Memphis, a little home and home interstate rivalry. They've got Baylor up next on SimWorld TV. They've got Butler. This thing doesn't really get tight until late December when they take on when they start their conference play against South Carolina in actually mid-January, January 22nd. That's when we're going to start figuring out what this team is, but they've got a shot. If you look at their schedule right now, I would say there's 3 games left on the schedule that you look at and say that could be a challenge. Maybe 4 if you count both Memphis's plus a Minnesota. First an Oregon and a Texas. Otherwise, Tennessee could be rolling into SEC play come the month of January. Also last night, Terrell Pearson doing yet another Terrell Pearson showcase. He ends the game with 17 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, but his second game winner of the season, he hits the layup over Kansas to lift Mississippi State over the number 9 ranked team in the nation, 90-88. Somehow this Mississippi State team is not ranked, and frankly, it seems like they're going to have to be after another performance. They're now 3-2 on the season's wins against Rutgers, against Nevada, and now against Kansas. Losses coming to Illinois, who's been very good this season, and Gonzaga, also who's been very good. So Mississippi State there. We talk about the SEC being a very interesting place for Mississippi State to be when it's related to Tennessee. We think it might be Tennessee, Kentucky. It probably will be Tennessee and Kentucky. But the way that Mississippi State has played, this is a very real team that could be very dangerous based off what we've seen over the first 3 weeks of the season. They're going to get a test coming up against Miami. They've got USC on the docket. They've got Penn State. This is not going to be a cakewalk for them into their beginning of SEC play, which is January 22nd as well when they visit Ole Miss. But Terrell Pearson has been a difference maker, and certainly last night was not all Terrell Pearson. Josiah Townley with 20 leads the way. Maverick Strawn, they had 7 guys in double figures. Maverick Strawn had 13. Terrell Pearson plays the full 40 and ends up with the biggest shot, goes 8 for 11, including 101 from deep. This team has depth. They have a variety of options that they can go to. And Terrell Pearson is just the guy who comes in at the end of the game and makes big shots. Being in the top 10 has clearly not been a place that's been ideal for many teams, Kansas just being the latest top 10 team to fall. But what Mississippi State is bringing is an ability to hang with good teams and then beat them down the stretch. And the truth is, that's indicative of them being a really good team. The fact that they're not currently ranked is obviously going to change. I'd be shocked if this team is anywhere outside of the top 15. I mean, if you beat 2 top 10 teams, regardless of where they sit currently, to play at that level, I think warrants a top 15 ranking for Mississippi State, and they're going to be a team that's very dangerous in SEC play, which again starts January 22nd for Mississippi State. All right, let's wrap things up with the SWFL. Thursday night, we're not talking Thursday Night Football, but we are talking a potential change at QB1 for a 4-2 Pittsburgh Steelers team. Russell Wilson, who has kind of been listed as QB1, if you go to the ESPN depth chart, listed as QB1 for this team, took the initial QB1 reps for Pittsburgh in his first return to practice this week. I don't know that this is the right move. Justin Fields has led this team to a 4-2 record. They just beat up on Las Vegas. Sure, he hasn't been lighting it up like he did in weeks 3 and 4 when he went for 245 and 314 yards, but Justin Fields has been exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers have needed. He hasn't turned the ball over. He's ran the ball well. He's been a dual-threat quarterback. He's not expanding his game to other levels, but he's keeping this team in winnable games. And it's no coincidence that their 2 losses are by 3 points each to Dallas and Indianapolis. But I understand where Pittsburgh is coming from. You enter the season saying, well, we believe that Russell Wilson is the better quarterback, and an injury derailed that. I've not always been a fan of when we go through preseason and we say, okay, our quarterback is going to be, in this case, Russell Wilson, but something changes and now we start a different guy week 1, and that just balloons into good things. You already made your choice, and maybe that choice was wrong. I'm not saying that we should have to be forced into wrong decisions. However, there was clearly something that happened during preseason that made the Pittsburgh Steelers feel as if Russell Wilson was the better option for this team moving forward. It just so happened that an injury didn't allow that to take place. It could be that Justin Fields is just a really good quarterback, and they have, not really good, but a good serviceable starting quarterback, and they have 2 starting quarterbacks. What we saw last season from Russell Wilson was not pretty. What we've seen this season from Justin Fields has been good enough. Would I go back to QB1, Russell Wilson? I personally wouldn't. Because Justin Fields has shown us over a much larger viewpoint than just a preseason, which is 3 games and half of them, or most of them, are played with nobody that's of value, to 6 difference-making games. Wins on the road in Atlanta, in Denver, and Las Vegas. Are those huge road wins? No, they're not. But you are 4-2 and in a great position in your division, which just has one other team being of any relevance, and that is the Baltimore Ravens. This team is well positioned with Justin Fields. You could certainly go to Russell Wilson, see if that works, and go back. But what's the point? If Justin Fields has really been this good, why are we even bothering with Russell Wilson? Especially because the most recent track record of Russell Wilson, going back to last season with Denver, was not a 4-2 record for a team that has a great defense and is surviving on offense. It's not pretty, but the Pittsburgh Steelers are getting it done. All right, that's our show for today. We are back in SimWorld U mode tonight as we roll on October 17th. A couple of broadcasted games in a night that is full of top 25s. 8:30, Missouri and Illinois, rivalry game in Champaign, and then UNLV in South Carolina at 10 p.m. Both of those games on ESPN. But we have quite a few games that are ranked matchups. Number 5, number 7, Miami and Gonzaga going at it at 10 o'clock. Memphis and Alabama at 8:30. That's number 16 at number 4. Number 24 Louisville meets number 11 Michigan in Ann Arbor, and then number 17 UConn travels to Georgia Tech, and then last but not least Texas, number 23 in the nation, visits St. John. So a huge top 25 week or night ahead. 2 of them are going to be on ESPN: Missouri, Illinois, and then of course South Carolina at number 21. UNLV. That's our show. Pleasure to be back. Thank you again to B-Ron for holding things down in my absence. We're back tomorrow morning with Rick Blaze, finishing out the week here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.
This has been a presentation